Welcome to Hard Hats and Horizons, the podcast where we dig deep into the construction and economic development shaping the future of Dallas-Fort Worth. We bring you insights from industry leaders and visionaries who are driving growth in North Texas. From construction projects to industry trends and insights, we cover it all. So grab your hard hat and join us as we explore the people and projects shaping the skyline of DFW. Now, here is your host, Andrea Pender.
Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. Today, I have James Mason on, and he is the co-founder and managing partner of Four Rivers Capital. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit, give us kind of that little 30-second elevator pitch of what Four Rivers is to start us off.
We get asked that a lot. What does Four Rivers do, or what are we? And I just say we're a commercial investment company. We do a lot of acquisitions of buying single tenant assets, shopping centers, office, industrial from an acquisition standpoint. And then from a development standpoint, we do a lot of single tenant development, office, hotel. We just became a franchisee for extended stay, America Premier Suites. It's kind of a mouthful. And that's kind of what we do. So I know it's a lot of different industries and a lot of different things we do. So we just say we're a commercial investment company. And then a lot of people go, well, who know our industry, okay, well, what? Yes, exactly. Versus, when you just casually meet someone, what do you do? Commercial investments.
Yeah. How many people do you guys have at your firm?
We have 7.
Okay.
So we're lean and mean, and we like it that way. We're all about culture. We all know each other from, either a brother-in-law or a friend of a friend or someone like that. So we're all connected pretty close.
Talk to us about how you got your bachelor's of science in kinesiology.
Yes.
To moving into the construction world.
So I love sports. I wanted to be in sports side. I thought I wanted to be an agent and all that. And then, when I was at University of Texas, literally second year, I was a sophomore, we had these speakers come and they said, you better love what you do for a living because you make no money. And I was like, well, I would like to make some money. And so at that point I was already committed, and I just finished it up, and it was kind of a broad degree at that point. It's not what it is today. When I took it, it was like heavy medical classes and stuff like that versus the sports marketing side. And then also from an agent standpoint, you got to have a law degree, which I didn't want to go that route. So yeah. And so when I was a kid, when I was in my teenage years, I worked for the Dallas Mavericks, and I love that side of the business.
What did you do?
I was what's called a bench boy, and I worked in the locker room. Okay. So there's 4 of us, and you go to every game. You get paid very well. And I was 13 to 18 years old, and the little kids that sit on the side of the basketball court, that's what I did. Got paid $100 a game plus tips. Yeah.
13.
Oh yeah. And unfortunately, I was there in the dark days where we never made the playoffs. And the year I left, we made the playoffs. I was there for the 3 J's, but Jason Kidd, Jim Jackson, Jamal Mashburn.
The other day, and it was talking about Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and what's the guy's name that had to create
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman. And I am not a huge sports person, but I remember I really was a huge sports fan as a kid during that era. I'm like, are we ever gonna have that 3 combo of guys ever again?
He was the nicest guy of all visiting players. Literally, I would say on my top 10 visiting players, he was one of the nicest. No, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I did a little deep dive. I spent probably 20 minutes this weekend.
So nice. He wanted to know what we were into. I mean, he had personal conversations with us. So did Charles Barkley. I remember those 2 guys as the nicest visiting players. So I worked 2 years in the Mavericks and then 2 years in the visiting.
That's neat. That's cool.
It was fun.
Well, I don't know a ton about you mentioned the Taco Bell, the In-N-Out, those types of food service types of projects. So talk to us a little bit about how you got those gigs, what all you did for them, and why it was kind of a career highlight for you.
So when I first got out of college, I went to United Commercial Realty. I did that for 5 years, which is kind of I call it my graduate degree in real estate, which was, I learned the tenant rep side and the leasing side of the business from a retailer standpoint. I wanted to go in retail. My dad is a land guy, which is a land speculator, which is kind of boring. You buy large tracts where the growth is, and you wait for the homes to come, and you hope and pray that someone pays you more. And you do transactions 1 every couple of years. To me, I was too slow a pace. So I wanted to go to the retail side, which is much faster pace. And the brokers actually have a lot of influence on the tenant on site selection. So I did that. And then I learned the tenant rep side. And one of my tenants' relationships was Taco Bell, which I helped them grow in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex from a site selection standpoint. And then when the downturn came in 08, 09, I was looking for some income and kind of started over and got a job with Taco Bell on the site selection. And I worked in the real estate department and I ran all of their new locations for Louisiana, Texas, uh, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Say Nebraska? Yeah, that was it.
I think that's a interesting thing that you said that because I just learned a few years ago. I never even thought about that. Like these stores have to have somebody finding that land, getting those deals done. There's a lady in Crew Fort Worth, and she did that in her previous career for Kroger.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you just never, you don't think about that until you think about it, you know?
And it was so awesome from a networking standpoint of like, I took advantage of all the round tables and like meeting other retailers. And so my Rolodex of like the Target real estate manager, the In-N-Out guy, the Wendy's, and got to know all the QSR, and real estate managers and guys in the real estate department. And it's very small group of people that, do the exact same things. And, unfortunately, I guess it's so one-sided when the stock does poorly or whatever, the first people to go are the real estate department, but they just generally move from one retailer to another. Unfortunately, it's just part of our industry. But,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting whenever there are things like that, the first person that goes and it's like, should that be the first person?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It really shouldn't be because, you got lease renewals, you got new sites, you got dark sites, you got real estate that you control, you got a sublease. There's a lot of things on the real estate side that people don't.
That's really interesting because I think I don't you drive past these stores every day and you just kind of
Right.
think they're there and magically it all worked out.
And I did only corporate stores versus franchise. So obviously Taco Bell has about, it's like, call it, I used to know the stats, call it 8 or 9,000 Taco Bells in the US. I only did the corporate side, which is only about 20% of the number. They always wanted to keep about 20% of the total locations on the corporate and the rest were franchisees. And a lot of times, so the markets I had, a majority of them were only corporate for corporate growth, and some of them were co-branded where they had the franchisee and a corporate from a growth standpoint, which made it difficult because the franchisee from a sales standpoint, some of these would be impact to the stores, and it made growing a little difficult. But
There's a I don't know, YouTube guy that will watch those and the guy drives through Taco Bell every day. I think it's a Baja Blast.
yeah,
And I'm like, what is this? I've never had one. So like 2 weeks ago, we're like, let's go to Taco Bell
oh
for
yeah,
the Baja Blast.
it was fun. So I worked at headquarters in the Tollway, the Yum Brands there, and that's where they did the what do they call it? Yeah, test kitchen. So we got to try like at that point. I was there when they did the Dorito shell when they had like the 4 or 5 different taco shells when they came out. So we got to try it, and we were the guinea pigs, and they want your honest feedback. Is this something you would buy and all that? It was fun.
Yeah.
We got to try all the new products and all that. It was cool. You just get an email at your desk. It's like, hey, today come down if you got 2 minutes, try a new product and do a survey. It was fun.
That's fun. One of the things you put on your intake form here is construction costs. So talk to us a little bit about how construction costs have risen.
Gone through the roof. I guess for years we were just kind of stalled out from a site work standpoint at $5 a square foot from a site work standpoint. And now we're looking at 11 to $13 a square foot. So the double. And from a budget standpoint or growth for any retailer, it's really difficult because your total costs of a budget have doubled from a site work standpoint, if not almost tripled. And it really impacts the overall rent and the hurdle that they have to do from a sales standpoint. And if you take like Wendy's or Jack in the Box and you take like a new growth market, let's say Salina or Prosper, where there's not as much density there, but the sales are, let's say the average unit sales are $1.5 million, but the rent for that new location is 200, let's say $250,000. Your rent to sales ratio is all out of whack. Versus like me personally, from an acquisition standpoint, we'll buy like an old location, let's say in an uptown that has been there for 40 years and it looks a little tired and it's not new and shiny, but the rent is 80,000 versus the one in Prosperous Salina paying 250. Which one would you rather buy? Less density or a very dense store paying a third of the rent and the average sales are X? The rent to sales ratio on the older store is going to do substantially better and be more profitable than the brand new shiny location in a small market that may be a growth market, but the rent to sales hurdle is upside down. And obviously, from a retailer standpoint, they have to grow. From a Wall Street standpoint, Wall Street puts out how many locations you have to grow by, which is insane versus like what is realistic from a location standpoint or stuff like that. It's bass backwards. It doesn't make sense. Wall Street tells you how many stores you need to grow versus corporate saying, here's how many I think we're going to grow by.
Numbers.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And to grow by 100 stores a year, you have to be working about 500 stores, 500 sites, because some of them aren't going to make because of entitlements or easements or flood or the zoning, or you can't get the drive through or whatever. And so it's not that the retailer doesn't want to go there. It's just things out of their control that
I like when you just said that. So 500 sites. Is there one person typically doing these 500 sites or
So when I was at Taco Bell, we had probably 5 real estate managers doing the exact same thing. So we divided up the country into 5 different areas, geography, and then we lean on a local broker and work through them. And the broker would take information from us of where we want to be from a site selection standpoint, and keep in mind our existing locations. We needed to be 2.5 to 3 miles apart from each other. We needed XYZ people within a mile radius. We needed Target and Walmart. We needed the traffic generators. Like those are the things we look for. And then, they were studying the new growth path for the big anchors of the Target, Walmart, all the grocers and stuff like that. And those were the areas that we would target. We were targeting the new residential growth with residential strategy maps and stuff like that, which is, from an analytics standpoint, that's what I loved. I loved all of the analytics. And then the broker would, call me and say, James, we got 4 sites in the market at this target intersection. Come in. I would fly in. I would look at 4 sites or call it. And I would say, which one do I like best? I would say this one is a purchase at $1.2 million. This one is $1.5 million. This one's a ground lease at 150. And we would do what's right for the brand. It was always about what's best for the brand.
what projects are you working on right now?
We're still doing a lot of acquisitions of single tenants. So we like to buy real estate first and foremost on the forefront, short-term assets, so 7 years or less, single tenant we're credit agnostic. So we would buy Will's Automotive if it's killer real estate. The cap rate just has to be appropriate for the lease term and the credit. And so we buy those as an income stream. We went and raised about $100 million in 2018 for a fund called FRC Genesis Fund that we own and manage and buy assets all over the United States, generally in growth markets. And we buy those single tenant assets where we care about the retail synergy. So we're buying pads out in front of the Walmart and Target. And we look at it as worst case scenario. If the tenant left tomorrow, are we going to be okay? And so if they're paying $100,000 in rent and we're buying it on a 7 cap and the total purchase is $1.2 million or whatever it equates to, those are what we buy. And call it a 2-year lease with no options, which is called a naked lease. And then we can get to the rent roll in 2 years and increase the rent or something like that. So we buy a lot of that. And then we became a franchisee for Extended Stay America Premier Suites. We bought 6 markets. We're under construction on our first one in Sherman and about to close on our second one in May in McKinney.
Yeah, interesting. Nice.
We like the Valley a lot.
Yeah. So we got connected way back during the Weirs project.
Yeah, that's right.
So talk about how that compares, because I feel like Weirs is a little different than Taco Bell.
Weirs was the most fun project I've ever worked in my life. We kind of caught lightning in a bottle, I guess, if you would. At that point, my business partner, Justin Sholkoff, represented Nike, and Nike wants to be on Knox. They're still not on Knox, but would love to be on Knox. And at that point, Weirs Furniture was a single-story building. At that point, it was probably, let's call it 15,000 square feet. And Nike we were in conversations with the Weirs family about potentially demising it and putting Nike in there as part of it. And, they were always like, no, no, no. And then one day Justin was, talking to Mark Moore, who ran Weir's family furniture business for them. And they're, it's a 1-story building. It's been there 70 years. It was leaking and all that. And Justin just happened to catch him on the right day and say, have you ever thought about putting your land in as equity and going vertical? Because you got a lot of deferred maintenance and repair and all that, which, a new roof is 500,000 or whatever. And, if you ever went there on a rainy day, there's literally buckets on the floor, and you're selling furniture and leather and rain and leather and all that. I can't imagine. It doesn't mix well. So, the family was very interested in that. Obviously, they were not real estate professionals in their families. We had to educate them. There was an education process that went with that. We did. And then they ended up hiring a consultant with CBRE, Elizabeth DeWitt, out of Savannah, who was college roommates with Mark Moore's wife, and Deanne Moore. And so she became their advisor in the whole process. And then after educating them on the process, they went out with an RFP and asked several of the big boys to come and present on it. And lo and behold, we were successful and actually won it, the project. And it was the most fun project of ever. Thank you. I love it. It was fun. We wanted to design a building. I think so many people in Dallas through the 2000s and the uptown boom till now are merchant builders. A lot of developers try to build things on a lower cost per square foot basis, so they can make more money, so their return on cost is better and their exit, and focused on that versus building. What we wanted to do is build something that would last for 70 years and be beautiful and leave a landmark. And so we decided to go with more of a brick building, which is more expensive. We went with a very complex window system, which was uh, difficult to design, but it came out and it looks great. At the end of the day, I think not skimping on the materials, it's rewarded us, and from a rent standpoint, we have some of the highest rents in the city, and it's been a phenomenal project.
I feel like that's a perfect segue into another note that you have: the haves and the have-nots of the office world today.
Yes,
A product versus B and C product.
absolutely. So I think when COVID happened, if you owned a B building, you were in immense trouble. A lot of those went back to the lenders, and I think today there's a hybrid model, not for every company. I think in your, certain companies, you have to work together from a collaboration standpoint. And then certain companies, I think, can thrive from working from home. And that's what killed the B and C office sector. The tilt wall buildings that you see specifically on the Tollway or 75 or in Richardson or Garland or the suburbs have just been hit so hard. And so those landlords that own those, we call those the haves and have not. The haves are desired areas where people want to be, which is, in my opinion, Uptown, Preston Center, Knox, Frisco is very active right now. And those are what I consider the haves, and the have nots are the areas where along the tollway or the tilt wall stuff that I'm talking about that have zero amenities. So there's a flight to quality for anyone. And it's all about retainage today for the people that own small businesses or large businesses for that matter. There's a flight to quality, and everyone cares about retainage and keeping good health. Well, to do that, you have to have all the first class amenities, and they're learning. The companies that we've dealt with and communicated with and have learned from, there is a heck of a lot of dollars that go into training somebody internally. And you don't really think about that as a new hire, but the dollars that the companies put forward when they put a value on that of training somebody for their computer software, their programs, or the way they do stuff, or whatever, let's just say it's $100,000. But if they lose that person to the next building, and the younger generations, what we saw is they would take less pay to be closer to work, to live, work, play environment.
So is it a location thing? Location plus amenities?
Absolutely.
And what are these amenities?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, it is, and you're seeing more and more amenities every day coming in these buildings. We just did an RFP, and we did 50,000 square feet of 2 floors amenities, and we are putting in cold plunges. So the gym is massive, and we also have a trainer 24/7. It is 750,000 square feet is what we're proposing. I don't know where that's going to go, but we put a 2-story basketball court in. We did a lounge that's really super cool. We have a bartender. We have a restaurant on top. This is all on the amenities. We have a deck. So it's going to be unique.
I don't feel like 30 years ago, like, if somebody came from the past, they would be like, all of this is made up. None of this is
Oh,
real.
and the finish out for these are call it, anywhere between $1,200 to $2,000 a foot. These are to the nines, just decked out. It's awesome.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And so back to the haves and have nots. A lot of the tilt wall construction you see, they have zero amenities. I mean, like zero, nothing. They don't have a deli that you can't walk to anywhere. Like our building on Knox, there's 36 restaurants within a 2 block radius that you can walk. And the thing that is so important when you have employees, you have different price points. You have, the sandwich shop, the salad shop. That's unfortunately, I was going to say you used to get lunch less than $10, and now it's $15. And then you have the executive lunch that you could go to, the sit down place like the Greenpoint or Mr. Charles or something like that. And then the dinners and the places to grab an after dinner drink and stuff like that. So I think, that those are what the recruiters are looking for. So now not only are the executives helping in the decision of the location, it's really the recruiters that work for these law firms or the HR departments for the private equity. They're really driving what they're looking for versus the executives, which is crazy. It's really changed because they're seeing the turnover in the amount that I was mentioning earlier, the dollars that go into training these young professionals. And when they leave, it really cripples a company and they have to start all over again. And then the time, energy, and effort they put forward. So then they found out, well, what are they looking for? They would rather be close to home, make less money. They would take a job with less money than, let's say, $20,000 more and commute with less amenities than be close to home with all the amenities they want at the live, work, play, where they can walk, enjoy their lifestyle. It's amazing. It's really about a lifestyle.
I know
versus my generation cared about pay. Yeah.
I know years ago there was a lady who had an office and they had absolutely grown out of it. And so they were looking and they thought their office was really great because it was close to food places, but they were all like super high end,
Yeah.
40, 50,
That's right.
$60. And they're like, well, this kid who just graduated college
Can't afford it.
$50.
Absolutely.
lunch." And so they thought it was a great location until they really started like, wait a minute, this kid can't just go downstairs and eat lunch here. You have to have reservations and a jacket and.
And we've talked about that with Knox. So the new Amberge MSD, which is Michael Dell's company, and is in a partnership with Crow and the Highland Park guys. There's about 6 or 7 restaurants coming on, and they're all super high end. And so the district is getting more and more expensive from a high end standpoint. It's like, how many high end restaurants can you have that one district can support
Right.
versus the Bread Zeppelins and the Potbellies and the
Right.
Jersey Mike's, which is more affordable for the average employee, which the average employee can't afford to go eat every single day at a Greenpoint Oyster Bar or whatever. They can't. I mean,
Right.
a $40 to $50 lunch is just not
That's
entertaining.
that's a fancy date night.
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
something
Absolutely.
like that.
And so there's a happy medium there for the district, and the district rents are continuing climbing. And I just hope it doesn't price the more affordable options out of the district, which is so important. I think you got to have a real mix of affordability versus, an executive lunch type place
Yeah.
and the white tablecloth with the affordability for the office to thrive.
Right.
Otherwise, it won't.
Right. That's really interesting. It's funny. I mean, times have just
Yeah,
changed.
absolutely.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about mentorship.
Mentorship. I was very blessed when I came in with Gene Smith and Lou Miranda and a gentleman by the name of David Brewer, who was on the preferred development side. At that point, he had his own company, David Brewer, Brewer Interests, and Brewer taught me. I learned a lot from him. He was a developer and did single tenant build to suits, and I loved working with him. And I was his tenant rep guy doing CVS site selection for him, and he was the developer. And then my mentors at UCR was Gene Smith and Lou Miranda, who really taught me the business. They taught me the tenant rep side, the landlord leasing side, and I loved it. And then Mickey Ashmore ran UCR at that time, and I mean, he was an incredible leader. He was the main partner at UCR, and just, I don't get to see these guys as often as I once used to, but they mean a lot to me. I don't think they realize the impact they had on my career and the success I've been able to achieve, but I owe them a substantial lot.
It's always interesting to see because I have a lady that did so much for me years and years and years ago, and she was like, "No, no, no, you did it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I never would have gotten to from point A to point B if I hadn't had your knowledge." Did you guys meet, like, formally, or were you just soaking it all in?
So I was David Brewer's broker. And so I was working with him probably 4 years on the tenant rep side. And he hired UCR to do the work. It was really Gene and Lou on call it the Eckerd expansion before it was bought by CVS. So I was doing their site selection before it was acquired. And David was one of the preferred broker or developers. And so I knew that I always did not want to be a broker because you're on a treadmill running 100 miles an hour, and every year you're starting over, and it is exhausting treadmill, if you will. And I wanted to create income and do bigger projects and ultimately go for it. And I saw what David had built and his lifestyle that he lived, and I wanted that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I quickly knew I wanted to go on the development side, and that's what I did. After 4 years at UCR, basically getting my master's in real estate and getting an incredible background on the brokerage side of how a deal works from start to finish, from site selection to LOI to contract to development to CO to being open from a retailer standpoint. It was an incredible experience. And then I joined a group called Mays and Company, which is a preferred development platform, and had an incredible experience there. Great partners. And we were, blowing and going, doing tons of developments every year on a single tenant platform on a preferred development standpoint until the collapse in the financial industry. But we had a great time. I still keep in touch with some of those guys, and it was a great experience.
Nice, nice. What is something you are most passionate about in your job?
Most passionate about meeting people. And I love meeting people, all the different people in our industry. It's a huge relationship business. It's massive on relationships, which I feel like I was very good at culturing relationships, creating new relationships and stuff like that. My wife always said when she first learned what I did, I took her to ICSC, which is the huge real estate conference. She's like, geez, all you do is talk to people and you like make money. I was like, well, not exactly. I was sitting at a blackjack table, and the guy next to me was the investment sales guy who ran the Boulder Group. And, we start talking, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, I got a Walgreens short-term deal that you might be interested in. Because you use his card. And sure enough, we ended up buying that Walgreens. My wife said, that's incredible. You just literally talk to that guy and
Yeah.
you make money. And I was like, not really.
It's like my teacher told me I talk too much in school. Have you seen that?
No.
Gosh, every time I see that, I'm like, well, like, because I'm ever report card. She talks too much. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's literally what I do for a living.
Right. And I love being in the field, driving new markets and seeing new projects and architecture. I did want to be an architect too before I wanted to be a sports agent and all that. But I love architecture, and I love creating something out of nothing. And seeing an old building with maybe how you revise it and put a lot of people refer to it as lipstick on a pig, or just scrape it and go vertical. My wife always comments in Dallas is we are quick to bulldoze the old versus refurbish an old and make it new again. She's like, I wish we would revitalize some of our older buildings and make it look pretty. She's from St. Louis, and it looks, it's an older city, and they've done a good job of remodeling a lot of their existing buildings and stuff like that.
I know like remodels take
Yeah.
a lot more work, maybe the same amount of money
It
as
is.
starting brand new. So
From my friends in the industry that have done that, they've all said, take the budget and multiply it by 2 or times 3. And it always seems to be run over budget. You never know what you have until you start tearing off the walls and seeing what's behind the walls. And to your point, it always seems to cost more. And we have yet to do a lot of remodels and probably won't
right.
For that reason.
I think there's a lot of things that go on in Dallas, and then you see it all over everything. I can't believe they're tearing this down, and it's like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, somebody does have to pay for this, you know?
You're right. I mean, and the infrastructure in Dallas is very old, which is concerning from a development standpoint. The city of Dallas tries to push all of the new utilities and upgrades and all that on the developers, and it adds a lot of stress to new projects.
What are some of your future goals?
Future goals. I would love to grow our existing assets. I think our team is very good at acquiring single tenant assets and growing the assets under management. I love that side of the business. I love watching our people find new sites and acquire them. They all love that. And building the extended stay hotels, the limited service. I've really enjoyed that side. It's a development. I love development from start to finish. It's fun buying a raw piece of dirt and at the end of the day, having a brand new, shiny XYZ on it is fun.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
I think that's one of my favorite things about this
love
industry is you could drive around and I always say like, "Oh, I built this," and my dad's like, "Well, you didn't." I'm like, "Well, of course I didn't like physically do it, but I had my little hand in it
It's
somehow,"
fun.
which is exciting.
It is fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's shift gears a little bit. Are some of your hobbies outside of work?
I love to fish, hang out with my three boys,
How old are they?
16, 14, and 12.
Okay.
So it's a fun age, but I love to fish. I always say I'm going to take up golf someday. I'm not very good at golf. I enjoy it. I'm just not very good at it. Yes, I keep saying that. Hopefully one day I make it do well enough I can play regularly.
Yeah. Are the kids all in sports?
They are. That keeps us busy. My oldest plays football and rugby, which is a lot of fun. I know nothing about rugby, but it's a very fun, interesting game.
Yeah.
It's very fast. I've enjoyed watching him play that. My middle son he's more of a track guy and runner,
Okay.
which is fun. They're all so different. And then my youngest is into baseball and basketball and all the above. It's fun. They're all so different. It's crazy.
All sorts of free time to just sit
Yeah.
and do nothing.
Yeah. Right now, oh man, tournament baseball is about to start up, and that is a different animal. It's a whole nother conversation. I love baseball with a passion, but year-round baseball is not good for these young kids.
Do you think that this is year-round stuff is just in Texas?
No, I think it's terrible for these young kids. Current major leaguers, if you will, didn't play year-round baseball, and now club baseball has become so prominent. And if you run a club, the only way for you to make income year-round is to play year-round baseball. So they have fall ball and spring ball and summer ball, and and these kids, their arms need a break. And the amount of Tommy John surgery for young children is over 50% for high school kids to 12-year-olds, which is insane. And that right there tells you there's a problem in the industry. And as long as the clubs are into making money, so I don't see it changing. And in the certain sports like baseball, the kid who has the most reps is going to be better than the next. So it's a repetition sport, which is sad, and I don't know how to fix it, but these kids are throwing too much, and the arm needs a break.
Have you read a book called Outliers?
I haven't. I've heard about it. Everyone keeps says I say.
So with your kids in sports and you just liking sports in general, you should read it.
I love sports.
It's nonfiction, but it is written in a way that I quote that book probably like once a month. And again, I'm not like a huge
Right.
sports person. And so like when I'm quoting a sports book, it's really, you'll find it interesting.
I
And
love
you-
sports. I mean, I grew up. I love collecting cards. I collected baseball cards when I was a kid, and I still do it. I still go to card shows and stuff like that. That's one of my passions.
So I feel like when I was little, like in the fifth grade, sixth grade, my dad pulled out all of his baseball cards from when he was little, and there was a baseball card show at the state fairgrounds,
Yeah,
which
for
was
sure.
super great.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just tagging along. Like I was just a kid. I had no clue what was happening. I was just dad wanted to go to this thing. And I don't remember which card he brought with him, but he showed a guy like, "Hey, how much do you think this is worth?" And I remember my dad's a pretty big guy, and this guy was bigger than my dad. And he was like, "You need to put that in your wallet or put wherever he had it.
Yeah.
Put it back immediately and you need to leave." And he was like, "What's going on?" He was like, "This is like priceless." Like not priceless, but he was like, "It's worth thousands and thousands of dollars, blah, blah, blah." And he was like, "I'm actually going to walk you out to your car." Because he
Wow.
was like so concerned.
Do you remember the card?
I feel like I can remember him saying Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Like there was Mickey
That's
Mantle.
probably 1952 or 51. That one's his rookie card, but a lot of people like 1952.
So I know like he has these cards and so.
It's interesting. His second year, which is 1952, is worth more than his rookie card, which is 1951.
Are you a reader? You like
Not a big reader. I feel like I read so much at work with leases and title memorandums and stuff like that. When I get home, I just want to unplug and relax.
What about podcasts and like that?
I listen to Joe Rogan. I like Joe Rogan. It's interesting. He has a lot of interesting dudes on there, and it just, the subject matters are all over. And I find it fascinating to listen. And, I think he's a great interview. It's fun.
But what I always like is he's always like to whoever in the back, look this up for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, one day the hard hat
Yeah. His little
system.
assistant, I forgot her name, but yeah, it's pretty fun. I've enjoyed that.
I feel like we've gotten through quite a bit of the stuff that you gave me. You did mention data centers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the data centers, so we just started doing that. We created a new venture with two other groups that came together to form one called Vector Data Centers. And we're going to grow, it's a development arm for data centers. And I think the data centers is crazy. I mean, there's no longer plugging into the grid. And so it's all behind the meter, meaning we got to find gas for the gas turbines. And the AI boom is real and it is insane. And I think for the people that think this is a flash in the pan and this is a phase are naive and they just don't understand it. And I don't think if you got to get on board because our industry, every job's changing overnight. Painting is probably one of the ones that won't be affected, but there are
But there's still
ton.
things like our takeoffs and like, how are we estimating? So I think that there's still other things, maybe not the actual manual
Yeah.
labor. Although I did see something on Instagram, it was like targeted to me and it was like a machine that would paint a mural. So I know we looked
That's
at
cool.
it, but I don't think the price made sense, where you could just have like a stick on, type of a thing or an actual painted mural. How are you using AI?
We use it from a lease memorandum standpoint of reviewing leases of is this a triple net or not?
Ah,
Real quickly when we're buying the single tenant assets like a Wendy's or whatever in Nashville, we get the lease. I want to know, is it truly a triple net or is it a double net? Is there landlord maintenance? Is it roofing structure? Those are things that we use it for quickly.
and so you just stick it in there and it will.
Yeah, we say, give us a quick memo or a high level, and then we'll say, are there any landlord maintenance obligations? And it'll run through that. It's amazing. We like Claude from AI standpoint over Chat GPT or Grok. I mean, I like Grok too, but we use, and it's interesting. If you plug it in, we use all three, Chat GPT, Grok, and Claude. And we had a lease recently and we plugged the same lease in all three. Two of them were unsure and Claude was correct. And then we asked our attorney, in their legal opinion, what was it? It was very vague. It was an older lease. So these older leases, some of them are very difficult and vague and the terminology is not the same in like the 60s or 70s versus what the terminology is today. So it was it did kind of stump the AI, but it was interesting. It was interesting. And I don't use it as like the Bible per se, but it's just a great tool in our industry to use on a regular basis. But we use it every day. I mean, every day. And then it was letters too. I mean, we were like, hey, give us a introduction letter or a whatever. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I went to like a little, I think it was like a 3-hour workshop. It's been probably 6 to 9 months ago at this point. And it was basically at that point, which a lot of things
Right.
change in tech,
Sure.
but it was basically saying for every 4 people, you will only need 3 people. And it's not because it's not because they're replacing our jobs. It's because it's just
More efficient. Absolutely.
So I think it's this kind of argument of, well, we also used to ride horses
Right.
and now we have cars, so you just kind of have to be.
I think
Okay.
writing, like people, the art of writing, I think that's going to change. I mean, write me a thank you note for X. It's like, and then you copy, cut, and paste. I don't know.
So I was an English major in college, and there's a thing. It's called the M dash, and I didn't even know. I thought it was just a dash. I'm like, I don't know, but it's like that's exactly how you know if it was AI. And I was like, I've been using this for 20 years.
Wow.
Like, no, it's not all AI. And then I saw something this morning about like a comma, and I'm like, but you have to use commas. Like, no, I promise you.
Right.
Like, so I feel like they need to be like, if you're over the age of this, like, it's not AI. It's just how you learn how
Right.
to use it.
No doubt. And I think the art of like the thank you note, I think that is a lost art, but that goes like, it's such a big impression when you get an actual written thank you note from anybody.
Yeah.
Just, it's like, whoa, that guy took the time. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah, I tell my kids that all the time. Like, take your freaking whatever letterhead and write up a thank you note with your hand, not to type it out or
Yeah, and this basket down here is all cards
Yeah,
for everybody if they took clients to lunch or one project or whatever it
it's
is.
huge.
So,
But somebody took 5 minutes out of their day to
yeah,
do that.
it's ultimately going to end up in the trash can.
It
Like,
will.
let's just, but it's also going to sit on their desk for probably a couple weeks before it finally makes
Right.
its way into the recycle bin, you
Yes.
know?
I mean, it's much stronger of a weight than an email.
Well, we have like all of our little cards that we get, we tape them up on the wall, and then once a year we clean them off, and then off we go again to
Email is like
recollection.
inefficient. It really
Mhm.
is. I mean, I'm probably got 100 emails here.
Yeah.
It is becoming
It is
inefficient.
brutal. Well, I think we went through a whole bunch of stuff here. I think it was really interesting.
Well, thank you for
So
having me. I'm happy to answer any other questions you have.
I think we're good. I think this is great. I appreciate you coming on
No,
the
of
show.
course. Thanks for having me.